Yes, everybody. Welcome back in the building. We're still less than 24 hours from the moment from last night when that bomba of a news dropped from Fabrizio Romano. The here we go. That Florian Wirtz is going to be a red. Our record signing. Guys, for those of you in the building already, and those of you that are members, I want you spamming the new Wirtz sticker. There will be another one being added. This is just the initial one until Matisha gets the sticker done. But yeah, you guys, we already got some Arsenal fans hating in the building. We got an Arsenal fan saying Wirtz will get found out in the Premier League. We'll see about that, brother. We will see about that. You know, I'm going to be someone who's going to be fair play. You know, instead of hating on other signings, I'm going to say, for example, I think you signed a top player in Zubamendi. I wanted him at Liverpool. I'm not the type to be sour about a player that we didn't end up getting and suddenly calling him not so good. Bro, Zubamendi is a top player. You see the way he performs for Spain as well. So, anyways, that's not who we're going to be talking about. But we're not going to be salty because that's not how we do things. But we are going to celebrate. We are going to celebrate. Here we flow, says Dean Hayes. Yes, baby. Patrick says, so hyped about Wirtz, bro. Me too. You best believe. Reflex Expert, I'm doing super well. How are you? Who says, just asking, when is the new kit coming out? The new kit won't be revealed until August 1st because that's when our deal with Adidas begins. And because of the rivalry, you know, the strict rivalry between Adidas and Nike, you know, they're straight competitors, we can't announce anything before then. Anything. So basically until August 1st, I don't think we'll hear anything about the kits. But then of course, like I said, on August 1st, it's going to be very busy around the new kid and everything. You met Connor Bradley yesterday? Let's go, bro. Big up. Yeah, I saw Kwanzaa. Leverkusen apparently want Kwanzaa, you guys. Apparently. Just make the deal ready. Stress levels way too high. Bro, the deal is done. When will we get the Mamadashvili reveal? As soon as he comes back from his holiday after the season. As soon as that happens. We'll be celebrating Kerkez very soon, brother. Yes, I hope so too. Okay, I wanted to share a few things as well with you guys. That I saw. So yeah, this is an update I absolutely love from Fabrizio Romano that said Arne Slot was crucial in convincing Florian Wirtz to come to Liverpool. When Wirtz had to make his decision, he wanted to talk to managers to understand the plans they had in mind before committing his future. Slot made the difference with his approach, always calm, very convinced, very clear. Now tell me that's not beautiful. Tell me that is not beautiful to hear. I mean, it's one season in for Arne Slot. Most people, including myself, had doubts about whatever manager was going to come in. How would they be able to, you know, cope with the pressure of taking over from a legendary manager like Jurgen Klopp? And think about how seamless Slot has been. The way he's been able to convince all the current players, especially the world-class players who have those elite standards, the likes of Mohamed Salah, Alisson, Virgil. Not only has he convinced them, but he's proven within his very first season that he's a winner. That he's won the Premier League by some margin. From April on, we could be in Ibiza, we could be at the beach, end of April, and that just says it all. You know what I mean? Love the new Wirtz sticker. Yes, go 12. That's not the final one. I just added a quick one in there, but Matisha's going to be making another sticker. So by later today, there'll be another sticker, okay? That's just one I quickly made. But yeah, there will be a Wirtz sticker. Faux show! The Wirtz stickers in the building, baby. Hey, buddy, have you heard anything about us selling players? Yes, there was also a latest about Darwin Nunez. And this report came from Ben Jacobs, who tends to be reliable for news related to Saudi, who says Darwin Nunez is expected to leave Liverpool. That's obviously not groundbreaking news from any of us. With the club putting a 70 million euro plus valuation for a sale, there is Saudi interest as well as Atletico Madrid keen, but there won't be a cut price sell for him this summer, which makes sense. You know, we know about the ability. Darwin is still young. We know about the levels he can reach, and I don't think that we'd be willing to suddenly sell for the cheap, on the cheap. You know what I mean? I don't think so. So, yes, Patrick, you know what? I'm going to text you because I think one of the ideas, I'm going to have you study some of the other channels to see so that you know what is best to clip, you know, instead of me telling you what to clip, you know, I'm going to tell you. But definitely, I think there will be moments from here. For example, Darwin talk is something that everybody's interested in right now. That's definitely something. Is Darwin staying? Ahmad, like I said, I personally believe that the club want to sell Darwin this summer. It was clear to see with the fact that Slot didn't start him in the final few games of the season when we had already won the league. If he had been in his plans for next season, he would have gotten those starts for sure. There's no doubt. So it's clear to see that Slot just doesn't rate him as a starter in his team. And would Darwin be okay with just being a bit part player in the squad? I don't think so. Given, again, his raw ability, his price in the market, his age, all things considered, I think the club want to sell him. I think the player wants to move. I think Slot doesn't want to keep him around because he knows he can start for many top clubs, So, like I said, it makes sense that the club also is asking for 70 million euro plus because of how much we paid for him and because of the ability we know he does have. He's proven it before coming to Liverpool. He proves it when he plays for Uruguay, etc. So, yeah, I think the main way this would happen, Darwin leaving, would be to Saudi. I think it would be to Saudi because they could pay that type of money and because the Victor Osimhen deal to Al Hilal, I believe it was, broke down. He ended up rejecting, and it looks like Kerkez is going to reject Saudi too. So he could be one of the few, even though he prefers a move to Europe, I think it's more likely that he ends up going to Saudi again because of the type of money that Liverpool is looking for him, So it's definitely one to keep an eye on. And I think that's one of the deals that definitely probably will be going through this summer. Did you see? Yes, Dean, for those of you that haven't seen it, look it up. That Lucho goal against Argentina, absolutely brilliant. It was a Messi-esque goal, and he scored it right in front of Messi's eyes too. Solo effort, absolutely brilliant. In an important game for Colombia as well, as they went head-to-head, toe-to-toe with Argentina, So, yeah, no, Lucho, there's no doubt that he's a top player, and I feel like people are forgetting the season he put up before he left. Before he changed positions. In the first half of the season, when he was able to play in his preferred left wing position, bro, he was so good. Everybody was like, wow, he looks like a different player under Slot. And it's only to the second half of the season, especially in like the January, February, March months, that people started to criticize Lucho when he had to be played out of position as a kind of false nine. So if people try to remember the first half of the season, they'll remember just how insane Lucho is when you play him in his preferred position and how much he has improved under Arne Slot. So I definitely think he wants to keep him. Most of us want to keep him. But again, it all depends on the offers that come in for him this summer. It all depends on that. My dream striker for Liverpool is either Alexander Isak or Julian Alvarez, but that seems very unlikely this summer. Let's be real. Shout out to you, Bilal, watching the stream. Big up in the building. You'll never walk alone. Hamza says, all of a sudden, everyone is saying this signing is too expensive. This, that, I don't know why. Bro, of course. Imagine, like other fan bases, they're afraid of a signing like this because usually Liverpool, right, we're able to get bargains in like a Frimpong. We're able to get players for a really intelligent price in the market, but sometimes we just miss out on that player that elevates us to that other level. We tried in the past with Sir, I think Mbappe was interested in Liverpool at some point, and maybe we could have gone for him. Who knows? But this shows the intent, and of course that's going to scare other fan bases, and of course they're going to criticize it. But for any Liverpool fans criticizing the transfer fee, that I got to be honest, I cannot understand. Like, if by now you don't trust the process, you don't trust Michael Edwards, who's at the helm, who's the best in the business at what he does, how do you not trust that? Who's so careful with his spending, for him to go out and fork out a British record fee? Trust me, he would have been doing his homework. Trust me, there would have been research on this that goes back years. Apparently, the first time we wanted to sign him was in 2020. And imagine how much he's improved in those 5 years. But that's when we initially found out about him. And let me tell you something as well. When we look out for players, I believe, from everything I've read at least, we're probably not like other clubs where we look at, for example, their marketing value. Like when United signed a Paul Pogba, for example, they think about the brand value of that and how many followers it brings to their social media, brand partnerships, this and that. Liverpool, I think, first and foremost in our recruitment, we look at mentality. We look at mentality, and that goes way back to when they were teenagers in terms of, their entourage, what's their family like, how are they in training, what's been their relationship with coaches over the years. All of these little details about mentality, I think, is what we look for first and foremost in a signing. And everything I've heard about Florian Wirtz, who, by the way, has 10 siblings, so he has an extended family in terms of support. Everything I've heard about him tells me that he has a special kind of mentality that can make him, he's already one of the best in the world, but that can make him the best in the world. That mentality. And this is what I love about recruitment. I truly believe that's our first criteria. That's what I read, for example, when we signed Ibu Konate, we did so much research into their development from when they were like an early teenager, because there's so much you can learn from that. And Florian Wirtz seems like that type of player that, of course, has that raw ability, right? He has that raw ability. He puts up the numbers, but he seems to check off the boxes in terms of the type of mentality that we want for this footballing project, for the winning culture that's already there at Liverpool Football Club. Look, what he put out on his story says it all as well. He publicly said, I don't want Maka's shirt. He said that on his story, that he's not going to disrespect any player. And this is what I mean. Of course, he has to have some kind of ego. Of course, he has to have that kind of confidence. But I do believe that we sign players who understand it's a team effort and that it's not just about them, even if maybe he's going to run our attack like Mohamed Salah runs our attack. And you see the way Mohamed Salah speaks in interviews, it's always about the team. When he's been asked about the Ballon d'Or this season, he's never said he wants that above the team trophies. He's always said the team comes first. Always. And that's the Liverpool way, in my opinion. And Florian Wirtz, from what it seems like in his development, like I said, apparently Edwards has wanted him since 2020. Trust me, we've been doing the work way back in time. And that's what exactly, look, Beek says Liverpool wanted Wirtz 5 years ago, and imagine how much he's developed since then, and that's what makes me so confident that this will be a successful signing. And like I said before, everybody's talking about the transfer fee. Of course, rival fans will be talking about that because it's easy. It's an easy way to attack someone. But trust me, the way we're going to welcome him at the football club, the way Arne Slot is going to welcome him into the team, nothing will ever be mentioned about the transfer fee. It's only going to be mentioned about how do we get the best out of you? How do we get you to adjust to the league, to the team, to the city, to the country as quickly as we can? Because we want results right away. I mentioned this before, but Virgil and Mohamed Salah have 2 years left. Maybe they'll extend, but for now they have 2 years left. They're the best in the world in their position. We got to make the most of that. And therefore, I do think Wirtz will have some kind of pressure to, of course, deliver quickly. Of course, we're gonna, support him no matter what. And even if he doesn't hit the ground running the first few games, of course, we'll continue to support him. That's the Liverpool way. But there will be pressure for him to showcase some of that talent that we know he's capable of. He's gonna have to. But again, when you look at what he does for Germany, where there is a whole lot of pressure. When you talk about him, for example, representing Germany at the Euros, you're telling me he doesn't know what pressure is? There's no bigger pressure than representing your nation, arguably the biggest country in Europe, in Germany, at the Euros and being one of the key players. And look at the way he performed alongside Musiala. He was absolutely brilliant at the Euros in a competition with a whole lot of difficult opponents to come up against, So he's proven it at that level, And yeah, it's jealous people, absolutely. Dean Hayes, thank you very much for the super chat, who says, appreciate you, Leo. I always enjoy watching you live. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you too being in the building. I appreciate you very much, bro. When do you think Florian Wirtz's presentation is? I don't know anything about that just yet, but when I do know, I will tell you. What's your realistic dream forward signing other than Wirtz? Bro, I have a feeling that Wirtz could play in the false nine next season, or Szoboszlai. I really could, And I think with the attacking fullbacks, I saw this tactical analysis on another show. I really think this could happen because we saw it towards the end of the season. Slot started to experiment with it. I think because of the attacking quality and the pace and kind of threat that our new fullbacks will bring in Kerkez on the left and Frimpong on the right. I think when we're in possession, we could have Gravenberch drop deeper, so it becomes a back three of Virgil, Gravenberch, and Ibu Konate, with Kerkez and Frimpong having the freedom to bombard forward. And then I have a feeling that we're going to play with two holding midfielders in Soboslai and Maka. So it's going to be like a 3-2. And then Frimpong and Kerkez, I'm saying in possession, right? Not when we defend. I'm saying in possession. So Maka and Soboslai deeper in those holding mid positions. Wirtz with a kind of freedom to roam through the middle. And then a striker, whoever that might be. It could be a front three of, let's say, Gakpo, Lucho, and Salah. But imagine with the attacking threat that these fullbacks, will bring, like I said, in Frimpong and Kerkez, Slot will want to utilize that. He's not going to lock them up as just these defensive fullbacks. There's no way, Jose, that he knows that would be wasting them and the weapons that they could bring for us, going forward. But I have a feeling we could see that next season, which could be incredible. Think about that. Virgil, Gravenberch, Ibu Konate in possession, and then Maka and Soboslai, who are so good in those deeper positions, and then Kerkez supporting, for example, a Gakpo, and Frimpong supporting a Salah, and then maybe a Lucho and Wirtz in those areas through the middle. My goodness, that is scary when I think about that. When I think about that, it is so, so scary. The Scouser, long time no see, how's it going? Sofia Kosa, nice to see you in the building, who says, trust in the owners, mate. You should have heard me scream when we got the here we go. We're going to be unstoppable, man. Rival fans going to hate, but there's no competition. He's boss. You'll never walk alone. Oh my goodness. Of course they're going to hate. But that gets me even more excited for the season, bro. That gets me even more excited for the season because already people are saying, Liverpool's spending so much money, this and that. Bro, City spent more in January. So it's just like, it's crazy how people are making it out like we have these crazy funds when they haven't looked at the net spend in the last 10 years. Not that I care, bro. I don't care. But it just gets me so excited for next season, you guys, because like I said, I think this team is just going to elevate to another level, and we've already won the Premier League in April. So it's just so exciting to also think that we're going to be so incredibly hard to play against because we're going to look nothing like we did last season. Nothing. Did you like Morientes when he was a Liverpool player? I didn't get to watch him too much, honestly. That's when I couldn't watch week in, week out because of back when I was living in Iceland. Leo will be scary next season. You best believe that we'll win more than just one trophy, bro. All I care about is for us to push hard. I just want us to push hard for the Premier League and the Champions League. I think we can take the domestic cups less seriously next season. But 3187, who's an Arsenal fan, that's the thing. We can let you have the domestic cups. I just want us to go for the Premier League and the Champions League. So if Arsenal want to get because they haven't won a trophy in some years now, if you, Arsenal, want to go for the Carabao and FA Cups, I think we should let the likes of Arsenal go for that, and we just focus on the Premier League and Champions League because we just played so many games last season that I want us to really focus on those. You know what I mean? And I believe that we'll have the quality. We'll have the quality, like I said, to elevate from where we were this past season. Oh yeah, sorry. Davi, it's because I'm getting too excited. I meant Wirtz playing as a false 9. That's what I meant. Sorry, I just got too excited. If you play Wirtz as a false 9, then even if we play him as a false 9, then that's what I would do. That would be 11 players. That would be incredible, bro. And then both Gakpo and Salah, especially Salah, could move more centrally with Frimpong overlapping on the right-hand side and having more space to bombard forward on that right-hand side. You know what I mean? That would be incredible. City 47 says Cherki versus Wirtz will be interesting. I mean, it'll be great for the Premier League to have ballers like that who are just such a joy to watch. I think is fantastic for the Premier League, in general, because you want to watch players like that week in, week out. So whoever the Premier League TV providers are, bro, they will be buzzing at the transfers that are being made in this league so far. You know what I mean? Luca, thank you very much for the support. You'll never walk alone. And Fuz Balos, thank you for the super chat as well. Uchiwa says, Leo, after completing the signing of these three players, who do you think we should go for next? For me, I would go all in to get Ibu Konate's contract extended. I really did a lot of research into possible center backs that are available in the market. For me, there's no one that we could get out there that would, from next season, yes, there's lots of young players I would be excited about us signing, but I'm talking about a player that comes in next season and can perform exactly at the level that Ibu Konate is at right now. So for me, the next step after we get Kerkez over the line is go all in to extend Ibu Konate's contract and then start with some of the outgoings, players that will likely be leaving this summer. You know, I mentioned it before, the likes of Costas, Tyler Morton, Harvey Elliott, Darwin, probably Chiesa, players that unfortunately I just don't see sticking around, and there will be suitors, no doubt about it, there will be suitors. But like I said for me, extending Ibu Konate is absolutely crucial because if you realistically look at possible replacements, like I said, for me, there's no one that comes in and does the kind of job that he can do, especially with the high line that will be playing, and especially as a right center back that's going to have to support a player like Frimpong that's going to go forward often. You know what I mean? So Ibu is just perfect for our system, and we got to get that. We got to get that deal done for the extension. You know what I mean? Vasudev, thank you very much for the super chat, who says, Isak, bro, I would die. I wouldn't be able to sleep if we signed Isak, but unfortunately, I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. You know what I mean? No, 3187 for the, if we play Plymouth again in the FA Cup next season and we lost to them, I wouldn't be mad at that. Genuinely, like I said, I would let you have the FA Cup, which is still a good. It's a really great trophy. There's so much history within that trophy. But like I said, I want us to go for the Premier League, Champions League. So I would be fine with losing to Plymouth again next season in the first round of the FA Cup if we won the Premier League and the Champions League. And I do think, given how serious Slot is, I think he kind of thinks that way too, especially given we've won so many of those domestic cups in recent years. Thank you, Kelleher, by the way, absolute legend. He played an instrumental part in those domestic trophies. Like I said, though, where the team is at now, and with the fact that Salah and Virgil could just have 2 more years here, I want to go for the biggest trophies. The biggest trophies. Those are the ones we want. You know what I mean? Those are the ones. And I'm going to hydrate for us to go for those 2 trophies next season. Bro, I'm not roasting. I just said what I'm willing to let Arsenal have. Not cooking. I'm just saying what I want Arsenal to have, which would still be much better seasons than last season. So it would be an improvement for Arsenal. So that's not being mean, you guys. That's not cooking. Come on, you guys. That's not cooking. That's me saying having a better season from last season. That's not embarrassing, bro. You'd go from not winning trophies this past season to potentially winning 2 next season and finishing second if you won again. So that's not a negative thing for Arsenal at all. It's not negative to win 2 trophies. You know? United FTBL says, Leo, to be honest, as United fan, I think Wirtz is overpriced. You might not agree with me, but I think Cunha is as good as him and half the price. We'll have to see that. Obviously, I can't answer that. I can't know because we haven't seen Florian Wirtz playing a single game in the Premier League. So I'm not going to go and tell you that Wirtz is much better than Cunha because we just don't know how he's going to perform in the Premier League. And what I agree with you is Cunha is definitely Premier League proven. He was fantastic for Wolves, for a real struggling Wolves side. And I do think that's a top signing for United. Like I said, just like, 3187, I'm not the type to be sour. For example, I wanted Zubamendi last summer. I'm not going to now all of a sudden act as if, Zubamendi's not that good because he ended up not deciding to join Liverpool. Nah, bro, we move on. And I'm still going to say, I think he's a top player. There's a reason why we wanted him so badly. There's a reason why Real Madrid were in the mix and he ended up going to Arsenal in the end. But now you signed a top player in Zubi. You know what I mean? But I do think what Arsenal need most is a proven goal scorer, which clearly is not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to find those type of players. You know what I mean? So we shall see. That is so embarrassing, Leo. Have some shame losing to Plymouth again. Yeah, I would be very happy to lose to Plymouth again, like I said, if we won the Premier League and the Champions League. And I know every single Liverpool fan in the building right now would agree with me. I'm sure of it. And then we'd let you have the FA Cup. Diaz, thank you very much for the super chat, who says we need to keep Lucho. He was on fire last night. I agree. I completely agree. Especially, like I said, I really do feel like people have the short-term memory in terms of they forget the first half of the season. And just because he had, I would say, a spell of about 3 months where he wasn't really scoring goals, all of a sudden people think to that. They think about that and they think, he's so inconsistent. But in reality, he was our second most consistent attacker last season when you look at the numbers. And I do think it would be bad to let go of that. But I also understand, Liverpool having to make a real decision this summer, because I do think it's a case of either you offer him a new contract or you do sell him this summer. Because if we let his contract run to he'll just have one more year left next summer, then a team could get him for much cheaper. That's the problem. You know what I mean? That's the problem. Young Trent Alexander-Arnold says, so happy that Wirtz is a done deal. I know. I'm getting cooked. Nah, bro. Like I said, I'm going to be respectful. Just like I said, when other teams make signings and I see certain players, like for example, United signed Cunha and it looks like they could sign Mbeumo, right? I'm not going to be like butthurt and say, they're going to be flops, this and that. Nah, bro. If we had decided to go for Cunha, I would have been excited about that signing. Again, being perfectly honest. If we had signed Mbeumo, I would have been happy about that signing because they're Premier League proven. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but like I said, whatever happens, I'm trusting Edwards at the helm, who has to, and I know it's Richard Hughes who's technically our sporting director, but especially on big deals like this, Edwards would have been heavily involved because of how massive of an investment it is. It's such a massive investment. You know what I mean? Mohammed, big up. Nice to see you in the building. Liverpool needs a backup winger, especially right wing. Salah needs to rest. Also, he'll be out in December because of AFCON. The only thing that's difficult about that, City 47, is because Salah is so consistent and he so wants to start every single game and he has an incredible track record of staying fit. It's hard to bring in a top quality right winger and tell them that they're going to sit on the bench for 95% of the season. That's the problem. And that's why I think, having players who are quite versatile is the answer to a problem like that. I could see us maybe having to put a Frimpong on the right wing. Who knows, during that short period where Salah's off to AFCON, maybe Chiesa if he's still there, or Lucho on the right wing, instead of signing an out-and-out right winger whose best position is definitely right wing, who again, like I said, for the next 2 years would have to sit on the bench for 95% of the season. I don't think a top player would want that, and that's what makes it difficult, because it's easy to say, go out and sign, I don't know, even an Mbeumo, for example. Go out and sign an Mbeumo. He's naturally a right winger. He can cut in on his left. But bro, he's going to be asking, look at the wages he's asking from United. Are we going to pay a player $200,000 a week to sit on the bench for Salah? It's not as easy as that, And this is what I mean when people talk about transfers and they talk about certain situations. I feel like it's so easy to say, sign that player. But you don't actually know what it means behind the scenes in terms of, for example, an Mbeumo. I think it would have been a fantastic option as a backup to Salah. But bro, we're talking about wages $200,000 plus per week. A fee that's £65 million plus. That's not cheap for just like a squad player. We can't do that. The only club that can do that is City, and even City, I don't think he can do that anymore because now it seems like PSR and financial fair play is actually strict, so they can't do. Before it all got strict. Remember back in the day when they could just kind of sign fullbacks for £50 million here and there and have no problems? I do think that's changed. And thank God, I'm so happy that PSR and financial fair play, we'll see if they get, those charges will be, if they're found guilty or not. But at least in this moment in time, in this present moment, I do think there's now actual regulations in the Premier League and that teams have to be careful with their spending. Otherwise, Newcastle would have spent hundreds of more millions. There's no doubt about that. If PSR and financial fair play didn't become strict, Newcastle would be in a very different place right now because with their ownership, they could have signed. They're the richest technically. They could have signed anyone pretty much. You know what I mean? So I'm really happy about that in the Premier League. It makes it more competitive. And look at the teams that won trophies this season. It's beautiful. Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup, Spurs winning the Europa League. Hamdan says, Leo, I've supported this club through thick and thin, but this transfer window feels different. I totally agree. Do you feel it too? Wirtz in, Kerkez linked, feels like a new era. You'll never walk alone from Riyadh. I completely agree, bro. I completely agree. The only thing is, I think at the end of this window, we could have a pretty, like, a pretty healthy net spend. And the reason I say that is one of the reasons why I do think we're able to spend big on a Wirtz and spend big on a Kerkez, for example, is I do think there'll be a lot of outgoings. Like I said, we've already raised 28 million pounds from Trent leaving early to Madrid, Kelleher leaving to Brentford, and then I think there'll be a number of other positions. I think Kwanzaa or Gomez could leave, so that's one player there. I think Costas will leave. I think Tyler Morin will leave. I think Harvey Elliott will leave. I think maybe 2 of our 6 attackers will leave. And which 2 of the 6 attackers? I think 2 of these 4 players, Darwin, Chiesa, Jota, or Lucho, depending on the bids. So if we're saying 2 of those, that would make it 6 players. That could potentially 6 first team players that leave this summer. That will bring in major funds. On top of the 2 I just mentioned, Trent and Kelleher. Trent frees up big wages. And we got the 10 million pounds early, and then the other. So that's one of the reasons why I also think that we are spending big so early, is we know there's money to be coming in soon, if that makes sense, because we have players to offload. So it's good news. It's good news all around. Darwin will stay. I think we're trying to sell him. I think we're trying to sell him. Jim says, I really hope Chiesa and Harvey stay. I would be surprised with that. Like I said, our team will look more like a slot team next season. And the fact that in his first season, when he couldn't really pick his personnel, you could clearly see he hit his favorite 11. Look at the amount of minutes Chiesa and Harvey played. I go back to even Darwin, if for me, you're a player that would have been in Slot's mind for next season and for the future, they especially would have played all of the games that were technically not that important because we had already won the league. And the likes of Darwin, the likes of Chiesa, the likes of Harvey didn't start all those games. And for me, that is the clearest sign that they're not going to get many more minutes next season. And if I put myself in the shoes of a Harvey Elliott, of a Chiesa, of a Darwin, and I'm getting told that I'm not getting many minutes next season, I would want to move on no matter how much I love Liverpool. Why? For example, Chiesa, his goal is to play for Italy at the World Cup. He's not currently in the Italian squad because he's not playing any minutes. So he could miss the biggest tournament you could play as a player, as a football player, to represent your nation at the World Cup. He could miss that if he decides to stay at Liverpool. You know what I mean? And that's where you understand it doesn't matter how much you love the football club. It does not matter. You understand that point of view. You have to understand that point of view. You know what I mean? I agree, Jim. I enjoy watching them play too. I'm a big fan of both of them. 100%. I'm a big fan of them. 100%. Suleiman, nice to see you in the building. What's good? Shout out to you, Liverpool. Your name is Fares, and I'm a huge Liverpool fan from Egypt. Big up to you. You stayed up yesterday to watch the live. Big up, brother. Absolute legend. Do you think Jones is a future? He's another one where I think if a big bid came in, for example, from a Leeds, I believe in the past I remember Leeds being interested in him. Let's say a 35 to 40 million pound bid came in for Curtis Jones, I think we'd be open to selling. But because he'll know he really is a squad player. I mean, think about the midfield options we have now. Gravenberch, Maka, Soboslai, Wirtz, they occupy those positions. We also have Endo, we have Stefan Bajcetic coming back. It's going to be hard for Curtis to ever be a starting player for Liverpool, let's be honest. But if he's happy to just be a squad player, I definitely think we'd be interested in keeping him around, But like I said, if a major offer does come in this summer, I definitely think we'd be open to selling. It's the same thing as a Luis Diaz. As much as we might rate them, we understand that it could be worth selling them if the right price came in, Jones gets paid. Is he on that low of a salary? There's no way. Really? Yo, Fetty Fetty, nice to see you in the building. I have to... Math exam, good luck on your math exam. Joe Gomez could be sold this summer, but it goes back to what I was saying before. It all depends on the type of fee that we get for these players. But I have no doubt that we would have made it clear to other clubs that these type of players, like I was talking in the center back position, Jeremy Frimpong just uploaded this onto his story. The Wirtz announcement could be coming soon. Frimpong x Wirtz from the Champions League. Oh my goodness. Guys, look at this picture here. Frimpong just uploaded this on his story. Guys, have a look at this. Ooh, Frimpong x Wirtz. They could be reunited in the very same summer they leave their clubs. Reunited, but at Anfield. Oh my goodness. Two electric players with real personalities on the pitch. So much personality on the pitch. That's one of the things, because I never got to watch Leverkusen week in, week out. What I loved watching during this Nations League when I watched Germany was the personality you could see from Wirtz on that pitch. The fight. The fact that he was, putting in those tackles. You can tell he has that mentality to just give it absolutely everything on the football pitch. And I love that. And I definitely think that's one of the reasons that we would have loved him as a player. Beyond just his pure footballing ability. That fight that he has. You think someone would pay 70 million for Darwin? Well, that's the minimum price that we're asking for, apparently. I'm the Ren fan from last time. You'll never walk alone. Big up, bro. Dynamic duo. Oh my goodness. You love to see it. I'm too hyped for next season, you guys. I am too hyped for next season. Already. Our preseason needs to start already. Not even our preseason. Our actual season needs to start already, bro. Yeah, Leverkusen want to sign a new center back to replace Ta. And apparently, Jarell Quansah is in their shortlist for a new center back. So that's interesting to hear. Dean Hayes says, I like Frimpong already and he hasn't kicked the ball yet. Absolutely. Leo, what a time to be a Red. You'll never walk alone. Oh, yes, CJ. What a time to be a Red. Yeah, proper LFC, that's what I think will happen. I do think the plan is to sell Darwin and Costas. Because they could start for a lot of clubs, and I don't think they just want to be bench players for Liverpool. And I think there will be suitors this summer. So definitely. Liverpool are exciting team for real. There we go. Arsenal fans showing respect now. Wirtz, Frimpong is a banging combination. Yeah, bro. If you guys watched, I'm sure all of you would have watched the Wirtz compilations by now. Many times Frimpong and Wirtz are linking up, and I'm so excited for that next season. My goodness, I'm so excited. So freaking excited for that. Yo, Lewis, nice to see you in the building. Jeff and Bob, we got to Here We Go. That's where we're at. We got to Here We Go last night. But man, I love that Frimpong story. By the way, De Bruyne's going to Napoli. I think that could be a beautiful move to look out for. He's just as excited for Liverpool as we are. Oh my goodness. Too hyped. Frimpong. I can see Robbo returning to Celtic, yeah, eventually. Although I do think this season I could see him staying this season and Costas leaving. But yeah, down the line, 100%, I agree with you. Down the line, 100%. Our two new signings should be Schlotterbeck and Ederson from Atalanta. Those would be quality players to bring in. But would they be happy to just be squad players? That's the problem. Like, Schlotterbeck is the current captain of Dortmund. Would he be happy to come to Liverpool and not be a starter week in, week out? That's what's difficult about these deals. You know what I mean? That's what's really difficult about these deals. It's not as easy as they seem. What number is Wirtz going to wear? I think he could wear the number 27. That's what he initially wore when he was at Leverkusen. Before he got the number 10. Can Wirtz win a Ballon d'Or at Liverpool? Why not, bro? Why not? We'd obviously have to win the biggest trophies. But let's say next season we win the Champions League or we win the Premier League and Germany win the World Cup. Who knows? The only thing is during this Nations League, Germany didn't look very well. So that's not going to give them confidence for the World Cup. That's the problem. Proper LFC says, I would go all in for Osimhen. Napoli don't want to keep him. He wants to play in the Champions League. The only problem is we'd lose him at the same time as Salah for AFCON. That's the only problem with him. And it doesn't seem like we're interested. I haven't seen any reports that we're interested in Osimhen. When will it be official? I don't know, bro. If I know, when I would know, I'll tell you. When I know, when it'll be official. Do you think Wirtz will score more than 20 goals next season? I think there's more chance he gets 20 assists than 20 goals. You know what I mean? With the positions he'll occupy, especially if Mohamed Salah continues to be the lethal goal scorer that he is. So I think if anything, I think there's more of a chance. Although let's see, for the last 2 seasons, he did get more assists than goals, right? Let me double check. Let's have a look here when you look at the stats. Florian Wirtz. So last season he actually had more goals than assists. He had 16 goals, 14 assists. But the season before that, he had 18 goals and 19 assists. Interesting. How do you rate Ugo Ekitike? I think he has a high ceiling, but he's not the finished product just yet. You know what I mean? And that's why paying a crazy fee for him, I don't think is something we would do. But if Frankfurt decide to bring their apparently their asking price before was 100 million euros. If they decide to bring that down, maybe we'd be in the race for that. But at that price, I don't think it's going to happen. Definitely not. We're not going to put that much money. Daryl Mary, thank you very much for the super chat. Who says, Leo, not done according to Sky and Ornstein, but I'm not stressed about it. I was saying it yesterday. I was talking about it yesterday. The reason why I'm not worried about that is the fact that Fabrizio is by far the biggest journalist in the world, and he's put it everywhere that it's a here we go done deal, and he would not risk his reputation if he wasn't confident of it. Trust me, especially a massive deal like this. Let's say it was a smaller deal that didn't get that much attention. Okay, that might be different. But do you realize the tens of millions of impressions this news got from him because he got the exclusive? He would not be risking that if he wasn't confident that it was a done deal. That's why I'm not stressed about what you've just said, which a lot of people are saying. Why hasn't Ornstein confirmed it? Why hasn't Paul Joyce confirmed it? But that's where I stand, at least. Vazudev, thank you very much for the super chat, who says, we win the Champions League and the Premier League. Argentina win the World Cup. Maka for the Ballon d'Or. Oh my goodness, imagine. Maka is a special player as well. Oh my, I'm too excited for next season. I'm going to need to calm down, you guys. I'm going to need to calm down. Exactly. Proper LFC. That's why I was never worried about this one. You guys saw me in the live streams. I was never worried about it because it was nothing like the Caicedo and Jude Bellingham sagas. It was made clear by so many that he had chosen Liverpool. And that's what made me relax the whole time. Exactly. Go12 says, I'd rather get knocked out early of the Carabao Cup next season and focus on the Premier League and the Champions League. That's what I was saying. Even the FA Cup, bro. I would be fine being knocked out in the first round of that. I really would. Especially given Slot is the type of manager that seems like he wants a thin squad. You know, it doesn't seem like he wants that many players and to rotate like Jurgen Klopp used to with certain talents. You know what I mean? We got to see that last season. Lewis says, Leo, Ratu says, would you sign Adam Wharton or try Bajcetic? It's the same problem that I spoke about, for example, Schlotterbeck before. Wharton is good enough already to start for many clubs. So if he joins Liverpool, can we find a way to start him week in, week out? I don't think so. And so are we going to spend, let's say, 70 million on a player who doesn't start week in, week out? I don't think so. And it goes back to what I was saying before, for example, about a Schlotterbeck. I don't see us going for a player who can start for many top clubs already, who has an important role in their current team, for just to be in and around the team, unless we bench Gravenberg. But there's no way after the season Gravenberg just had that we'd bench him. You know what I mean? So it goes back to that same thinking from before that is more complicated than just saying, let's bring in this young player. Because again, you have to think from their point of view, from the agent's point of view, for their development. Nobody wants to just sit on the bench. And if you watched Liverpool last season, you know Slot is not the type to make that many changes, like I just said. He's not the type. Yo, Patrick, welcome back. Would you mind if Liverpool signed a Rennes player, bro? Back in the day, I would have wanted Camavinga. Wasn't Camavinga at Rennes and he left for not that much money? I remember it was like 40 million euros or something, and I was like, we should have gone for that. Yeah, he was at Rennes before he joined Real Madrid. What was the fee? I think it was. Let me check. I think the fee was like 40 million. And I remember back then I was like, bro, we need to go for that. He's so versatile as well. And look, he's already proving what a top player he is. And he's still so young, you know? So. Kid number, I think it'll be 27. Yeah, he was. Even Desiree Doué was at Rennes. Yeah, that's another one we should have gone for. That's another one we should have gone for, but it's easy in hindsight to say all these players we should have gone for. Lewis, I don't know what shirt Wirtz is gonna wear, but my prediction would be 27, just because that's a previous number he's worn that isn't taken in this current Liverpool team. And based off of the story that he put out that he doesn't want to disrespect any player, I don't see him taking a number 17, for example, because Curtis Jones occupies that, or I don't see him taking number 10 because Maka occupies that one. So I definitely think it's easy. No, sorry, I definitely don't think he's gonna want to take a squad number that's already taken. Yeah, Patrick, for example, I think the discussion around Darwin would be a good one. Even if that's just 2 minutes, for example. You know, I think it's a good discussion because everybody will have things to say about that. When will his medical be? We don't know the exact date, but I think soon, soon, soon. Number 7? Nah, bro, Lucho is number 7. You'll never walk alone from Nigeria. Big up, Samuel. How you doing in the building? I've got the Darwin clip from earlier. No worries. Love it. See, this is another media clip. Says, would you rather sell Robbo or Costas if we sign Kerkez? It seems like Kerkez is only a matter of time. Fabrizio said the next one now, after the here we go has come from for Wirtz, is Milos Kerkez. And who do I think is more likely to stay? I think it's going to be Robbo. And the reason I think it's going to be Robbo is because he is one of those leaders. He's a backbone in that dressing room. I think he's going to stick around. He's going to be that mentor for Kerkez, who's still very young, but he's going to be the backup for Kerkez. From match week 1, I think he would start already, you know? But like I said, I think we really value him as a leader, and we probably offer him a 1-year extension. 1-year extension because his deal, you know, he doesn't have much left in his current contract. And Costas, I think, can also get us a bigger fee in the market. So that's my personal prediction as to what will happen at left back. You know? 27 gives you Darwin flashbacks. Yup. Yup, yup, yup. Yeah, Theo, Fabrizio said that Leverkusen want Kwanzaa and that's separate to the Wirtz deal. I saw that. Absolutely, I saw that. Bro, imagine. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wait, what? Let's have a look. By the way, what's the look the video that Frimpong? Hold on. Yeah, look on his story. This is what he was. Wait, did the Champions League post this today? Yeah, look, the Champions League posted this yesterday with the celebration of the two of them. Look at that, bro. Frimpong assist for Wirtz. It's gonna be an insane duo next season. It's gonna be an insane duo. Where do you think Harvey goes? He'll have a lot of suitors this summer. A whole lot of suitors. I don't know where he'll go, but I think there'll be a whole host of Premier League clubs interested. Apparently, a whole host of Bundesliga clubs are interested. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But I do think if you listen to the latest, I mean, I'll literally tell you guys the quote. This was from the other day when he spoke um, on international duty. Listen to what he said. This was his quote. It's just a situation that me and the team on my behalf have to have a conversation about because I'm going to be 23 next season and I don't really want to be wasting years on my career because it's such a short career. I just want to improve and be the best possible version of myself and the best player I can be. If that's to go somewhere else, then it's a decision I'm going to have to make and I just see what happens. For me, that's pretty clear that he's more likely to leave. And the reason I say that as well is because he knows that he won't be getting regular minutes, and he knows for his development, getting regular minutes is the key. You know what I mean? You have to be playing often. You have to be. Jeremy says, I'm so hyped yesterday at dinner that my parents had to tell me to relax. Nah, you should not relax, bro. Enjoy these moments. Enjoy these moments. Frimpong and Wirtz will be poetry in motion. Yeah, Dean, I gotta make a video on that. I'm too hyped. Just thinking about it. Just thinking about it. I don't think Isaac is realistic. No, I agree. I don't think it is realistic. I don't think it is realistic, but I don't mind, bro. Because look at what we're doing. Look what we're doing in this market right now. That's what matters most. That is what matters most. Can we move Wirtz to a striker? That's what I was saying before. I really do think that's something that we could see happen next season. I think we could play with Wirtz. I was just mentioning before, I think the formation that we'd play is when we're in possession. Gravenberg drops deeper, so we have like three defenders. We'd have Virgil, Gravenberg, and Ibu. We'd have Soboslai and Maka as the holding mids. We'd have Wirtz operating in that central position with the freedom to roam. That would allow Kerkez and Frimpong to bombard forward with the quality they have and the pace that they have, and then it would allow us to use our fullbacks in more attacking positions, which when you have a Frimpong and a Kerkez, you have to do. You know what I mean? It would just be stupid not to use them. Harvey will be on fire in the Serie A in a team like Roma or Napoli. Probably not Napoli, to be fair, because look, they've just gone the here we go for Kevin De Bruyne. So I don't see them starting two such attacking midfielders in the same team. You know what I mean? Yeah, I could see the false nine happening 100%. And yeah, Maka deserves a contract extension. I want to keep him for life. I want to keep him for his whole career because he's just absolutely world class. I think Isaac said he's a Liverpool fan. I think he said something like that, yeah. Not that it matters too much because I think he's happy. All right, you guys. Cool. Patrick, cool. All right, guys. This is going to be the end of this live stream because I'm going to prepare a video right now on Wirtz Frimpong. I'm going to prepare a video on that right now, but stay tuned, you guys. There will be many, many more live streams to come during this window because we mean business. We mean business, and it's a special time to be alive, you guys. Special time as we just got the Here We Go last night from Fabrizio. Record, British transfer record fee for Florian Wirtz. We're not messing about this summer. We're not messing about in wanting to retain this Premier League title, and we are not messing about in backing Anislot after his first season at the club. We believe that he's gonna take this team to heights that we know Liverpool is destined to be in, you know, for years and years to come. And by signing best in the business players, that's how you do it, because you best believe a Wirtz type signing is going to elevate that team, elevate us in the final third with his quality. So big up, you guys. Big up. I will see you guys very, very soon. Have a beautiful rest of your day.